On Military Tales, Brigadier retired Dr. Robert Kabage served in the Kenyan military at a time when war was threatening to tear apart the African continent. He was in the very first Kenyan military contingent to Sierra Leone. That was in 1999. He was deployed as a disarmament officer in the peacekeeping mission that would facilitate the peace process. Here is his story on this week's episode of Military Tales.
Robert Gishangi Kabage's ambition in life was to be a teacher, so he went ahead to get an untrained teacher job in Nyeri at St. Paul's Seminary right after his A-levels.
When I went to St. Paul's Seminary, I had a colleague of mine who had come from Kakamega High School. And this colleague of mine had a challenge in one of his feet had a challenge. So he always used to look at me and say, if I was like you, I would join the military. Next recruitment of the military that was advertised, I went and I was just recruited.
He joined the military on the 14th of August 1981, reporting to the Armed Forces Training School, Lanet.
Later, after 3-4 years, I joined the Logistics Corps. So I came to Kahawa as a logistics officer. And I went through the logistics line up to the highest appointment within the logistics. I was the corps commander of the Kenya Army Logistics Corps.
Shortly after, Kabage went for his very first mission to Sierra Leone, heading the demobilization, disarmament and reintegration program.
At that time, the situation was terrible. Law and order had broken down. The rebels had taken over the country. But by the time we got there, they had already signed a peace agreement, a comprehensive peace agreement. And now they had agreed that they want peace. That's why we were deployed there as a peacekeeping contingent. So my role was to facilitate the peace process by ensuring or making sure that I prepare those combatants, all those people who are involved in fighting, to lay down their arms and be reintegrated into the society.
Kabage had to move to the hotspots in the countryside and identify centers with people who wanted to be disarmed.
We had to give them a facility whereby they could come, bring their weapons, hand over their weapons, they are registered, and then they are prepared for subsequent stages. Because once this person lays down their weapon, they need to be assisted to resettle back into the community.
In Sierra Leone, Kabage witnessed the great atrocities of political conflict, roadblocks, women and children with hands chopped off.
Sometimes they would give you short sleeve. Short sleeve is they chop you from here. Long sleeve, they would chop you from here. So what actually one time touched me is when I saw a 2-year girl with both hands chopped. It was very sad.
But his work wasn't without challenges, for the missions were also very dangerous and risky.
I remember in May 2000, I was in a place called Makeni, and I had a British officer with me. We had gone to try and set up a DDL camp. We almost got kidnapped. We were actually assisted by a Kenyan military contingent that was in that area.
Over the years, he went to other nations in pursuit of peace.
After Sierra Leone, I also had the opportunity of being appointed a defense attaché to our Kenya mission to the United Nations to address issues of peacekeeping, deployment of our peacekeepers, police, military, and prisons.
Brigadier retired Dr. Robert Gishangi Kabage was in the very first peacekeeping Kenyan contingent to land in Sierra Leone in December of 1999. 35 years later, he retires from the Kenya Army, joins with like-minded individuals in the pursuit for peace in Africa and globally. Reporting for KBC from Runda in Kiambu County, Amnesty Emmanuel.